A world full of endless possibilities, all the freedom we could possibly wish for, all those options and choices to design a life we absolutely love. And yet somehow, our doubts and insecurities still manage to creep in any chance they get. Somehow, way too often, we just can't let everything simply be okay and live our best life. Hi, this is Liz. I live a slow and simple life that helps quiet the soul and quiet the mind. And I assume you are here because you know that nagging voice in your head, questioning every decision you make, every step you take. You are here because you are tired of navigating the endless maze of your doubts and insecurities. Because you would love to stop your mind from constantly running in circles once and for all. You're in the right place. Today, I'm sharing 5 tips on how to let go of your doubts and insecurities and to let things simply be okay. Are you ready? Let's dive right in. Tip number 1. Acknowledge your feelings, then challenge them. The first step has to be to acknowledge our feelings of doubt and insecurity and to understand where they come from and why they're even there. The good news is that doubts and insecurities are completely natural and they even serve a purpose. Questioning and doubting our decisions every now and again keeps us from acting too impulsively and allows us to learn from past mistakes. And that's a good thing. If we never reevaluated what we are doing or have done in the past, if we never assessed whether we made mistakes, we could never learn and grow as a person. Feeling insecure around others shows that we care about what others think of us, and that's not a bad thing either. We are social creatures, and the wish to be perceived positively by others is just as natural. The issue with these natural and useful feelings arises because our Stone Age mind isn't fully adapted to our complex 21st century world. For most of us, luckily, there is no danger lurking around every corner, and the decisions we are faced with are luckily very rarely life or death scenarios. But our mind way too often still makes it seem that way. Plus, there are so many different lifestyles and opinions out there that it is virtually impossible to fit in everywhere and do it right in the eyes of everyone. So, whenever we notice doubts and insecurities creep in, let's first of all take a deep breath and be thankful for these functions of our mind that simply try to protect us. Next, if we feel overwhelmed by our doubts and insecurities, it can help to keep track of when and why they occur. Keep a journal. That can be in your phone as well, and note down the situation, your thoughts and feelings to help you understand patterns and triggers. Often, doubts and insecurities are rooted in irrational or exaggerated negative thinking. When a negative thought arises, I encourage you to challenge it. Ask yourself, is this thought based on facts or on assumptions? Be honest with yourself here. Then, try to replace it with a more balanced thought, with a clearer focus on the reality of the situation. Tip number 2. The roads to Rome. If we constantly doubt our decisions, if we constantly suspect we might have taken the wrong turn somewhere, it helps to acknowledge this basic truth about life. We often assume that whenever we are faced with a decision, there is one right option that inevitably renders all the other options wrong, or at least suboptimal. And if we didn't choose that perfect option, we are losing and missing out. But the truth is that there can be countless options that are just as right as the others. Our decisions sometimes alter the course of our lives, but whether they alter them for better or worse is something we will never know. We will never know what would have happened had we made a different decision at some point, whether we should have chosen this job or that job, moved to this city or that city, spent our weekend here or there. We can never know which chain of events would have been set into motion had we made a different choice. The only thing we can know for sure is that something might be different, and that's it. There is no one right decision. Many roads lead to Rome. If we can learn something from a specific mistake in the past, let's do that and then move on. We can drop the constant doubts about past decisions. We are doing just fine. Tip number 3. Act like an actor. The next tip I would like to share with you takes some getting used to, but has helped me a lot. When I was 19, I was part of a psychological experiment. My task was to go up to strangers, talk to them, and ask for their phone number. Half of the time I was my regular self, and half of the time I was wearing a really ugly wig. And I noticed something interesting. It was so much easier for me to approach people while wearing the ugly wig. Why? Because that wasn't me. In my mind, that was a completely different person, and I didn't feel the embarrassment and self-consciousness I felt when I approached people as my regular self. So my tip is to wear an ugly wig at all times. I'm just kidding. Seriously though, if we feel insecure about our decisions, about our interactions with others, or if we lack self-confidence, it can help to imagine that we are an actor or actress in a movie. We can imagine we are playing a confident character, an extroverted character, a flirty character, and can simply act as if we are playing that part. How would that character approach others? How would that character react? How would that character feel? It takes a bit of practice, but it is way easier than we might think to assume a role and detach from our own shy, self-conscious or insecure identity. If you struggle with this, it can help to pick up a hobby such as theater, pen and paper roleplay, live roleplay, reenactment, or any hobby that requires assuming a different identity. Over time, you'll get very comfortable with acting in a way that usually wouldn't come naturally to you. Tip number 4. The 100 and 0 rule. This surprisingly simple tip blew my mind because I had never heard of it before. Whenever we are in a situation with different options to choose from, we can easily find ourselves in a state of decision paralysis. This can be anything ranging from which study program to choose to whether or not to start a side business or pursue a romantic interest. We might have a tendency towards option A, but maybe option B isn't that bad, and then there's option C as well. And there is nothing wrong with considering multiple options to solve a problem or make a decision. However, what we often end up doing is splitting up our focus and energy between these options, dedicating 50% of our energy to A, but also 30% to B and 20% to C, because we don't want to just discard them. So we kind of pursue all of them a little bit. The irony is that despite having several options that appear to make sense, we end up committing to none because we don't invest enough focus and energy into any of them. This often leads to us achieving nothing because by dividing up our focus, we aren't giving any of the options enough energy, priority, and commitment. We are so crippled by our own doubts that we don't allow ourselves to commit to a decision fully. So what I recommend is to actually sit down with your pen and your notebook to make a pro and con list for all options and then make a decision then and there. As I mentioned before, doubts have a purpose. Their purpose is to make us think different options through properly so we don't just follow our impulses. But once we made our decision, their job is done and we can let them go. Now we commit to the option we chose 100% and also focus 100% of our energy on it. And this will help us actually achieve something instead of being torn apart by our doubts. So next time we spend time, energy, or money on something, we can stop questioning whether we should be investing our resources into something else. We made our decision to the best of our knowledge. Now we commit to it. Tip number 5. So what? The last tip I would love to share with you is called So What? And it's literally what I keep telling myself quite often. The idea is to consciously let go of unnecessary perfectionism and the doubts that often come with it. Doubts and insecurities exist to keep us from making mistakes, but do we really have to avoid all mistakes? What if we, for a moment, acknowledge that in most situations, making a wrong choice or taking a wrong turn doesn't end in tragedy? In fact, we sometimes get so insecure about things other people barely notice or forget after 5 minutes. We get so insecure about what people think, whom we're never gonna see again, or about how we are going to embarrass ourselves when everyone else is literally just focused on themselves as well. In fact, if we spend too much time thinking about everything, making sure we avoid every possible mistake, do you know what happens? We become incredibly boring. We lose the ability to be spontaneous. The most fun moments, the most exciting adventures, and our most cherished memories are born from the ability to be in the moment without thinking through absolutely everything, without doubting and questioning every step we take. As a constant overthinker, I have always admired people who are able to embrace their imperfections and just be themselves, and I am so relieved I adapted this mindset. There is one more thought I want you to take away from this video. We have one life. It doesn't matter whether we believe in an afterlife or even in reincarnation. One thing is for sure, this life is ours and its time is limited. It is too precious to be ruined by us constantly doubting and questioning every step we take. Instead, let's just let things be okay. We'll make good decisions, we'll make mistakes, and all of that is okay. All of that is what creates our life that is uniquely ours. And when we are 80 years old, nobody's gonna ask about that one embarrassing moment when we were 20 or that one mistake we made when we were 30. We are most likely to regret the things we didn't do or that we didn't allow ourselves to enjoy because we let our doubts and insecurities hold us back. This is your life. Make the most of it and don't waste it doubting yourself.